each one of us, let's put it in perspective, who we are as a people, the greatness of the inheritance and the heritage that we have inherited. Each of us come from a very small seed, part of a sperm that you can't even see with your naked eye. And yet, we are here tonight as a manifestation of men and women in the image of God. I say that to say we should not take lightly what has been done here tonight, because we have planted a seed. And what we have in our hand tonight is a seed that we know will grow. It will grow far beyond our imagination, even for those who had the vision of it. And I mean that sincerely, because to everything there is a time and a season for every purpose under the heavens. And our survival as African people has been because of our culture. If it had not been for our culture, we would have been destroyed as many of our enemies have intended. But by God's grace, it has been the great rich culture that we have inherited from our ancestors that we still exist as a people. And it is in the institution of our chieftaincy that has been the embodiment of those principles that has preserved us. So now we see that our culture that has preserved us throughout the years now need our attention and our support to preserve it. That which has preserved us now needs us to fight to protect and preserve it. In 2019, we celebrated the 400-year anniversary of what we considered Africans brought to the shores of the United States of America in 1619. And it turned out to be the biggest year that we've seen Africans in the diaspora coming back to Africa, called the Year of Return. And now we've gone beyond the return. But it's not just about people landing at Kotoka International Airport in Accra. The return represents returning back to our values, our ethics, and our culture as African people. When the people return, what are they returning to? They have to come back to our African mind. And our kings and our queens and our institutions must be able to share in creating the vision of what they're going to come back to. If we bring those hundreds of thousands and millions back from the diaspora who've been lost out there, what is the culture that they will come to meet? We have to help the government put together what is the formula for beyond the return, and how do we promote this culture so that people have something to return to. And I'm going to end with this note. Just as we mark that 400th year, in 2023 is going to mark 700 years since Mansa Musa, a king from West Africa, left West Africa and went all the way to Egypt and Mecca. And he put a mark on history, because nobody in the world ever seen anyone that rich till this day. Not Bill Gates, not Donald Trump, not any name that you can call today in history today. Google it. The richest man recorded in history was Mansa Musa. And he left West Africa in 1323, 700 years ago, 2 years from now. And when he left here, he left with 60,000 men and women on that entourage. 12,000 of them were servants. 500 of them went in a single file procession, and each one of those men carried a golden staff worth 7 to 8 pounds of pure gold. And he had more gold in his possession than the world and anybody had ever seen. That he dropped the whole stock market in gold, made gold so cheap. One caravan. And so when this man took all of that gold there and shocked the people with that economic power, what superseded the gold in the descriptions of all the historians that tell that story was the character of the people that came with him. They had never seen people dressed in the garments that they were dressed in, the cloth that was woven, the gold that was displayed, the ornaments that they had on them, the order and the possession that they walked in and they filed in. They'd never seen nothing like that before. And that's what's in our chieftaincy institution. That brought every Arab and every European searching to West Africa for that gold. That ended up opening up their minds and trying to find out the source of that gold. And that opened up the ugliest chapter in our African history of them coming down here to exploit us, to try to enslave us, to colonize us, to take us from that culture that had us richer than anybody in Europe. Not one university was in Europe, and we had universities in West Africa, not just Egypt and Ethiopia, in West Africa. So that is the return. We have to return back to that brilliance. We have to return back to that excellence. But we have to see ourselves in that brilliance and in that excellence, and the Chieftaincy institution is invaluable in restoring that vision back and that hope back to our people. The governing institutions that we're following, they're crumbling. Even in America, you can't get Democrats and Republicans to agree on budgets. So that's not a model to follow. But what the chiefs and the queen mothers and the kings have preserved over thousands of years is worth re-examining and correcting and perfecting, and let that lead us into our future. Thank you very much.